Hi, everyone. Welcome to Figure Out Fabric, where I ask dumb questions and you get smart answers. I've got I think, were you our inaugural guest? I feel like it.
I was third. I think I was third.
Oh, okay. I've got one of our earliest guests back on for a reappraisal. And we're going to talk about people's least favorite subject, which is AI. I know everyone's sick about it. So,
We have AM
disclaimer now.
exhaustion.
Yeah. And this is going to be coming out a few episodes after our episode with Kurt Bueller on AI, but we're going to be a bit more dystopian in this one. So we're going to be talking about how you're more likely the product than you are the consumer with this stuff. And Kellyn, she's got decades of experience with Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, but now she's an AI advocate at Redgate, which I assume means that she's trying to usher in the apocalypse, right? So, like, when Mad Max happens, she's going to be the
Trying to
guy with the
stop it.
car.
Trying to
Huh?
stop it. I'm trying to
Oh,
stop it.
oh.
I'm
So this is
data
more like
protection.
Terminator, where you're trying to.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were like the rock and
I'm
roll
Linda
guy in Mad Max
Hamilton.
Furiosa.
No, I'm Linda Hamilton with the gun. Yeah.
Got
Big,
it.
big,
Okay.
yeah.
It's good to pick a side because the clankers aren't going to take prisoners, so you got to know
Yeah.
what side you're on.
Am I Linda Hamilton though? Because I love AI. I mean, let's be honest.
I do
We like
too.
jumped past the introductions. I just went
No,
right
please.
into it, didn't I? Yeah.
No, fine. Tell people who you are for the people who don't know who you are.
Who doesn't know me? Yeah, because I had this weird epiphany as I was doing a keynote at an Oracle event that I'm now better known on the Microsoft side than the Oracle side, which was really surreal to realize that because I still do Oracle a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. But that recognition and realizing that most of the Oracle community is just like, oh, well, that's Kellyn. Because there's no women in the Oracle space. You'll never escape if you're a woman in Oracle. Um,
Yeah.
but that I hang around mostly Microsoft and open source and DevOps events and stuff like that. And all my friends are kind of, well, I shouldn't say all my friends. I have a lot of friends, but my close friends, a lot of them are in the Microsoft community. They my
Yeah.
peeps. But I've been in the space for I'm getting up on 30 years. I get to come into, like, customer engagements and go, "Yeah, I've been in tech longer than, like, Huxley's been alive," and he's their solution engineer. So it's getting to that point in my life. That's where I'm at. I know it. We're all feeling our age, but I work with Steve Jones and Grant Fritchie and Pat
I'm so
Ryan.
sorry to hear that.
They are
I'm
lovely.
kidding. I'm
They're
I'm I'm I'm
wonderful.
busting your
Yeah.
balls. I love them both.
You should. You absolutely should, because I never stop. Anybody who went to the Past Summit keynote should have figured out that Laura and my job up on stage was just to see if we could trip up Steve the whole way through. And we got Grant to just be a total goofball, which was awesome. Awesome,
Nice.
awesome. But yeah, I mean, I love my job at Redgate. I am very, very involved with the engineers. I
Yeah.
love that Grant tells people that I like to do the hard stuff. But I'm happiest when I'm deep into, code and technology. I am. I need that. If I don't have that, I'm very unhappy. So I do a lot of coding. I think I opened up 2 new GitHub repositories just this last week for my solution engineers and building out some scripts. And yeah, there was Python, there was T-SQL, there was PL SQL, there was Postgres SQL. Yeah, no, there was stuff for everything in there. So whatever anybody needs, I just become a Swiss Army knife and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it, you know, talking about AI and talking about your history and your role,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get his name wrong. I think I want to say he's Polish. There's a guy, it's like Gurgly Urzaz or something like that. He runs the Pragmatic Engineer um newsletter. It's a great newsletter. I pay for it. It's worth it. But there's free versions, and he's talking about, okay, what does this new world potentially look like? And it's interesting how the skill sets that are valued are going to change because your skill set of multi-platform used to be like hot. I guess it's my own podcast. I can swear it used to be hot shit. Used to be a hot commodity where like it was very rare to get people who can be multi-platform. But now with AI, it's easier to learn and jump from
It
one
is.
language to another. But the skills that are still gonna matter are all of the engineering and software engineering. Understanding DevOps, understanding Git, understanding architectural stuff. And so it's interesting how, you just gave your background.
Yeah.
A fifth of that is now worthless. You know what I mean? Like I am working on a project to transpile Power Query from M to pandas to be able to move stuff from data flows to notebooks, right? But I could not do that at all if I didn't start learning about TDD, DevOps, all this stuff. So it's interesting to hear how like the world is changing and the skills that you have, some are going to become way more valuable and some are going to become way less valuable.
And I'm gonna actually take that a little bit with a grain of salt because I don't know if they will lose their value
Sure,
completely.
sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
my husband and I joke about that, before Oracle got the Stargate project, before they became part of the AI bubble, okay?
What are they doing? Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, we can talk about that, yeah. But before that happened, I told Microsoft back in 2021, "They're coming for the AI projects." They're like, "Pff, no, they aren't." And then they won Stargate, and they're like, "Kellen, we need to talk." I'm like, "I told you.
Yeah, yeah.
1 second, let me go cash out on my Oracle stock. I'll be right back." One of those. But, I mean, when people would say this and they're like, "Oh, you're Oracle," and it's like, you know what? Somebody's gonna bring me back to life in 3020 and my husband and go, "We hear you know Oracle."
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's just the Cobalt, it's the Pascal, the Fortran of its decade, and
yeah,
everybody who
totally.
says, "Oh, I have all these skills," they're worthless. They are not worthless because there is so much value in that data that it resides on, and that data that is using some of that skill set that somewhere, somehow, somebody's gonna say, "It ain't broke, I ain't gonna fix it, I'm just gonna keep using it," and then you are going to be just worth millions and millions of dollars because you're the only one who's gonna be able to work on it.
Yeah,
Let's be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, for sure.
So that's where I am. As much as people go, "Oh, I gotta learn this new AI thing. I gotta learn that AI thing." I have a tendency to hold myself back and stay with some of the trusted stuff. Somebody says, "Oh, we're gonna do this," and like right now, I'm working with ASEC Pro collectors with Python. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. Python, gotcha. But if somebody said, "We've got this brand new language," and I'm not even gonna try to guess one right now. I don't want to insult anyone
Mojo
because I will.
is a new language I've heard of. I think it's for like writing
Yeah.
GPU kernels.
Somebody says that, I'm probably gonna hold myself back. I'm probably gonna say, "I'm not gonna waste brain cells there and time there." I'm very much against wasting my time that might be cool, it may be the cool new thing, but I need to put my brain on something that I think I'm gonna be able to retain and use for a long time.
Well, I've got a perfect example of that and where AI is helping me. So let me find. So I have an Android phone. Java is a nightmare. Kotlin is a language built on Java.
Speaking of Oracle, but anyway.
Sorry, no offense, but I've I've always wanted all these personal apps, and I've written some before AI. Like I'm gonna write a blog post at some point about Eugene Quest, which was this dumb Python Flask and Angular 1 app I wrote to try and manage my life, and it like worked for a while and then fell apart, and then I kept using the exercise part, like this tiny little seed out of this like rotten husk or whatever. But with I can make an app for help me and my husband manage our time. And so we've got this YouTube list of
Nice.
channels that we watch and other stuff. And like I gain no personal value from learning Kotlin. I'm never going to be a mobile dev. I never want to deal with Java. AI
Yeah,
helped me write a Minecraft mod in Java. And so I'm incentivized to learn just enough to help guide things, but it's
agreed.
never going to be my core competency. And so it's a waste of my time to learn Kotlin.
I agree with you completely. I love Python, but did I know how to work with, like, some of this stuff that I've just been working with, the prawn stuff? No, I had never worked
Yeah.
with it before, but
Yep.
I knew what to ask. I knew how to write all the main code, and then I could go and ask questions of ChatGPT or Claude and get the answers that I needed to fill out all the missing pieces to complete a task that somebody was like, "Can we do this? Is this possible, Kellyn? Could you do this? Let me see." It makes a huge difference. It is a great collaborator. And I think for somebody like myself that's easily distracted, it collaborates when I wanna collaborate. I don't have to go look for somebody and wait for them to be free, and it's
Yep.
wonderful. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So one of the things that you wanted to talk though about is some of the more sinister side of this. So like I said, we're going to be talking a little bit about the dystopia. And one of the, notes here I have is about how a lot of times we are not the consumer of these things, especially if you're paying for free, but even if you're paying money in ChatGPT, Claude, I haven't looked into Gemini. If you're paying the
Obsidian.
$20,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to go in and tick a thing to turn off help improve our models. Well, help improve our models, they never tell you what it means. Like I have not been able to find conclusive anything on what it means. So theoretically, they could train on your data. And as
Yes.
data professionals, like it's very important to understand that as the models get bigger and more training, technically the risk of data exfiltration becomes smaller, but not zero. And during the ChatGPT 3.5 days, researchers were able to exfiltrate verbatim copies of the New York Times articles.
Mhm.
There, they found some exploit where if you just say the same word 1,000 times or tell it to say the same word 1,000 times, it exfiltrated someone's real phone number, personal
Yes.
phone number. And so and OpenAI has been through multiple lawsuits. I think there was a judgment like this week where they had to provide like 30 million logs of user entries because of, I don't know if it was a New York Times lawsuit or a different one. I forget. I just saw the headline. And so anything that you put into a consumer LLM, you should treat as if it's public.
Yes. I agree with you
Same way
completely.
with Google searches, right? Like they can get a warrant, they can look up your Google searches. So if you want to make a pipe bomb, get a local LLM and ask it, or go on DuckDuckGo or something.
We're not recommending this
No,
for
no, no,
anybody
no.
to do this. Yeah.
Theoretically, if theor hypothetically, and I don't think people get that. Like I think people are just taking queries from work, data from work, and just shoving it in there, and that
That
just
data from
terrifies me.
work. Yeah,
Yeah,
and, I've been talking about this for a couple years now in different keynotes and that, I started doing this, like, Hall of AI shame,
yeah,
where
yeah,
I
yeah.
would come up and go, and I had dealt with this firsthand with a customer engagement that isn't with my previous companies, I wanna add that, where somebody had come to me and said, "Kellyn, can you advise our company on AI?" And I said, "No problem." It was one of my first gigs, didn't think too much of it. The
Yeah.
users wanted to help the IT group is what had happened, and they said, "Look what we did. We had free ChatGPT, and we uploaded
Mhm.
our entire loan customer base." Loans. Think about it, loans, into the free version of ChatGPT, and I said,
Yeah.
"You need to notify your customers that you've had a breach, that you've
Yeah.
created a
Yeah.
breach."
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, no, what are you talking about? We built out all of these trends and reports out of ChatGPT from this. This is really cool," because they were saying they couldn't build it for 6 months. We got all of it out of ChatGPT in just a matter of a week, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"You uploaded all of loan data, all that PII into the free version of ChatGPT." And it wasn't just them. There's a couple different ones, different companies that have done these, and, trying to it'll come to me as we're talking what the actual
I
companies are.
think people at Samsung, engineers lost their jobs because they had like
They
trade
put out
secret stuff,
Yes, their
right?
entire roadmap was uploaded. Yes, I use this as one of my examples too.
Yeah.
And they were asking it, "What do you see? What should we do with all these roadmap visions, everything else?" And they didn't know it was publicly searchable. So it's
Yeah.
constant. And, they right now are saying I haven't looked at the latest quarter, but last quarter it was 26% of free version of ChatGPT was PII. authorization codes, names, address, social security numbers, all this stuff. And now you have this huge challenge of a lot of Americans with the challenge that we have with healthcare, going to ChatGPT and asking it healthcare questions and uploading their actual
Very personal
medical history.
questions. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is all available now. And it's like people are so worried about HIPAA and signing off and saying you won't share my medical history, but it's right there. So the question is when AI will start being hacked by hackers
Oh, yeah.
instead of hackers using AI to hack medical institutions and healthcare organizations and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting that people are not taught what AI is. It's just this magic box of AI instead of what generative AI is, what agentic AI is, and all these different forms of it. And what's the difference between an AI application and a large language model and small language models, and what are ephemeral sessions and what is isolation? Nobody's explaining this to folks, and so folks are. It's a penchant for disaster. That's what I'm seeing with AI instead of teaching people how to do this. And many of these big organizations, IT organizations that do have an investment in AI are perfectly happy with it because it's more data that they can use. And so as I was starting to search this, I'm like, so we're starting to look at that AI bubble. We're starting to wonder, is there really an AI bubble? And yes, there is revenue value that's already being gained from AI, even though OpenAI says they won't have any, positive revenue until 2028. I
So
think
they're
they're
so
at
gonna
now
do ads.
2030.
I
Yeah.
will I will I will bet you not I don't think you I think you take the same side as me. I would gladly bet $100 that by the end of this year, they're gonna have ads. They're
And
just
it's
gonna.
not just the ads though, but
Yeah.
as they
Oh, you
start
think
to
they're
do
gonna
it in the
sell people's data like Verizon. Oh my god.
it's
I
not
didn't even
even
think about
that.
that.
I was looking at the data as a whole. One, the cross investment. There's this like $100 billion that just keeps going around to all these companies going, look, I just got $100 billion. You're like, no, that
Yeah.
was their 100 billion. Oh, I gave it to him. Now I got $100 billion. No, that was his. That's the same money, you people. And you're seeing this cross investment. And then it's like, where is this weakest link? And I was starting to research into all this. And I'm like, well, how much is AI really worth? Each individual that they because you think about it, what is AI learning on? It's learning on data, your data that you put out in the web. And what Google is training on is a little different than what OpenAI is. There's overlap,
Sure.
but there's a little different too. Google has a little bit of an uptick on this and what they can train on versus what
They have
OpenAI is
YouTube.
getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of it. I mean, it
Yeah.
just Google searches and the Google web, everybody Google it. There you go.
Yeah.
All of this stuff that's out there, Gmail, all of it. And so all of this stuff that you can train on. And so I said, what is each human being on the planet worth? And then you have to look at how much of the population is in different areas.
Yeah.
China has and India have 48% of the entire population of the entire world. I think it's actually larger than that. My numbers are coming up wrong here. But the North America is only 7.5. Europe is 7.8. So those are small numbers that they're actually able to get profit from. Each individual, as I started to go through it, and I'm doing this research using AI to dig into this, I had to correct the prompt as it went through and some of the results that came back. There were hallucinations in it, and realizing that it was undervaluing women, wasn't considering how much buying power women have, how much actual information women were providing on children, on families, everything else that's all of a
Oh,
sudden
sure.
contributing into AI, that it went anywhere from 200 to about $900 a day. That's what each or a year that each person was worth. And that would end up being about $16,000 to $19,000 in your lifetime. That's what each person was done. And that ended up coming up to 2.6 to $4.9 trillion annually in AI revenue that could be spread across all of these companies. Well, if
Right.
you look at how much they're in debt in their investment, there's a bubble. There's definitely a bubble because remember how much of that percentage is sitting in China and India.
Yeah.
So I started looking who's the weakest link in this. And OpenAI is a huge weak link. They're doing well, but there's a weak link there. But Oracle's a big weak link. And it's one of those links that's in there that everybody's like, why? Why? Yes, they
Oh.
had the infrastructure and they purchased a lot of the GPUs back in 2021, But what it really is about is the investment into the Fed, that their biggest customer is the DoD, defense. And
Okay.
because it is their biggest customer, if Oracle was to go under, guess who's going to have to go bail it out? The Fed.
Yeah.
And so the Fed is probably going to, we're going to have a federal bailout of AI if the bubble bursts. That's what's going to happen because of all the cross investment and everything else. So you recognize why they were brought in and the value of this. And it's not that Larry Ellison can't do stuff. He can, absolutely can. Are they going to screw some stuff? Yes. Who will probably get Stargate if Oracle does end up in a bailout situation? It's probably going to be Google. Google is where they think it will actually go. It's not going to go to Microsoft, which surprised me. Who's the most insulated? Microsoft. Microsoft and AWS is the dark horse people aren't thinking about. And there's some of the stuff that's coming up from Alexa, which is surprising people right now. I mean, there's new Alexa products that look almost like a Google search and everything, and Siri that is surprising folks right now. So there's a lot of problems with this whole AI bubble, and you realize there is limited revenue that can come from it, and there's going to be winners and losers, and how this investment is going to go. And will AI even look like what it looks like today in 2030? Which many data scientists don't think it's going to. What we use for large language models now may be completely out the door, and we may be onto something completely different. That they will embed all of the data directly into the GPUs, and they will bypass large language models completely. So I mean, it's a really weird time. But as I was doing all this research, and the keynote that I was coming up with all these calculations, I said, I'm about to go down this rabbit hole. You're coming with me, and I'm having this talk with folks. All of a sudden, because I was doing this in Claude and ChatGPT, and I was working through all these numbers, and I had pages and pages of research as I was going through it. All of a sudden, and I don't remember which one came back and said, and then you, Kellyn Gorman, and it comes
Yeah.
back and it says, do you know how much you are worth? Because you're worth more. What do you mean I'm worth more? And it says, because of your contributions, because of everything that you've written, your books, all of this that could populate and be pulled in, your blog posts, your speaking engagements, your video, all of this. This actually makes you 6 to 10 times more valuable than the average human being to AI. And it ended up valuing me instead of $16,000 to $19,000 in a lifetime. I'm actually worth millions of dollars. And it came back and joked and said, you may want to get somebody to invest in you.
That's funny.
So AI is thinking about this, which means AI is telling AI investors this. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
That this is all part of that they're looking at people and this is how it's investing. And of course, people are thinking, how can I rake in the money from this? Who is more valuable? And you're going to have classes of people that are more valuable inside AI that's going to be targeted.
Yeah.
There's my dystopian future. How do you like that?
It checks out. I mean, I think a thing of the audience right now, I think a couple questions that are probably on their mind is like, Eugene, I thought this was a Fabric podcast, which I'll get to. Um, and two, like, how does this affect me? And three, what can I do? And so some things off the top of my head, I don't know if you saw this came out like yesterday, the day before. Microsoft acquired a company called Osmos. Um, and so, and then there was a news article today that they're planning more layoffs, right? And so Microsoft is still full steam ahead. Now, I will say I'm happy to see them doing some of the agentic stuff. Some
Yes.
reviews on Reddit did not give me a lot of optimism about Osmos, but I think one of the things that you see with Microsoft compared to like the AI labs, I thought this was really insightful. A lot of the AI labs are so bought into the idea that AI is going to keep getting better that to them, productizing around limitations is a waste of time because it's just going to get better. And a lot of the Copilot stuff, I think, was productized around the limitations of like ChatGPT 4 and 4.0. It was basically like, what if we have ChatGPT 4 forever? Well, how can we integrate that with everything? And now we're running into the situation. Like, I've been high on Claude Code for the past 3 weeks, and I don't think people are going to want a Copilot in every product because it's all isolated and can't talk to each other. Claude Code's great because you don't have the software as a service silos, you have a file system,
Yeah.
and you have the bash command line, and it knows from decades of stolen scripts and books that you wrote that it stole, that it knows how to use that stuff. And so I'm glad to see Microsoft wising up to the agentic piece. I'm not excited that they're spending all this money on AI and not, like, fixing the 1,000 paper cuts, but, it's like you said, Microsoft has a future in this, and we're playing a money game of musical chairs, and at some point, everyone's gonna have to sit down, and
Yes.
there's half as many chairs as there are AI companies, and it's gonna be real bad when it happens.
Now, to give you some good news on that, Satya has been talking a lot about 2026 being the year of justifying AI. Because there
Hmm.
was such a push for years, and this started way back in like 2019, where people were
Sure.
going, if you want your bonus this year, and this is back when I was at Microsoft, it made total sense. This is really cool. So, everybody, if you want your bonus, you better be putting AI in your product. Think of early AI as technical debt. Now somebody has to go in and clean that all up.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
There are a lot of AI features inside Microsoft products. And it's not just Microsoft. I see it in Apple.
Well,
I see it in Google. I just brought up Adobe and went, why is this AI pop up in the way of what I want to do? It's
yeah,
everywhere. I believe Satya already knows this. And he's saying it's time to justify the AI. People are going to have to go in and clean that up. And I don't think that's something that Microsoft has always been good at, but I think he's going to make it an objective for most people's annual reviews that you need to go in and now clean it up and come up with a unified AI platform. And I'm all team Satya. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that he's going to be able to pull this in cohesively. Yes, there are more layoffs, but most of those layoffs aren't AIs replacing you. Most of the layoffs are so they can redistribute that
mm,
financial savings into investment in AI. Because as you said, there's only so many chairs. And when the music stops, you got to sit
mm,
down and make sure you have that investment and you're done. One of the reasons that Oracle is on my list of being a weak beam in holding up that foundation is because they still had 65 billion that they had to come up with by the end of the year and they did not. They had people starting to pull out. You saw their stock go. Choo, 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 choo. It was going back down. After that 400% increase, then it
yeah,
started going back down. And it was because people were seeing that. They could not come up with that investment, even though they had laid off a ton of people. All of this was redistributing their assets, redistributing all of their financial in their direction to speed up and innovate faster. That's a huge challenge on any company for them to do that. Now, that's where we get into like Fabric. Fabric is a product that right now was, just move as fast as you can and build this thing. And now the democratization of data is saying, how do you secure that data? And that's a big deal to me. Data protection in the age of AI is a big deal. I am seeing some beautiful features coming out from Fabric where they're actually going in and saying, we are really focused on data protection. We are now focused on how do we protect this now that we are no longer just services. We are services and infrastructure and all this stuff. As you said, that multi-platform, that multi-skill set that is required because so often we see with Fabric is that nobody understood the networking and this is where it's broke. Nobody understood the storage and we're over here in services and it's broke. It's open, and you see some of the worst AI holes of AI shame. Some of them was they didn't secure their S3 storage underneath
oh,
their AI
sure,
tool.
yeah,
Things like this again, and I always thought it was really viewed as strange when I was at Microsoft and I took our team from being data and services, what we call it, because we were separated. You're
mhm,
database, you're data and services. This is infrastructure networking, and I pulled us over to infrastructure networking. I'm like, we're an all infrastructure play. We have to understand the infrastructure. We need to
yep,
understand VMs. We need to understand storage or we die. And when we did that, we became these weird data infra specialists, but it was key to us winning. And now everything's kinda coming in there, and as I was talking to, like, Connor Cunningham, and I just had a great time just, you know, taking him on at the end of a keynote at a summit event where he was talking about where they were going in the future of storage for Fabric, and I'm like, "Dude, you're building an Exadata inside Fabric. I gotcha. I'm seeing ya." And he didn't understand why I was asking him all these questions. He's like, "Kellyn, you made me earn my pay today." And I was like, "You didn't understand what I was seeing because I know Exadatas and everything you were talking about with the storage pools and offloading and being able to, to pull this compute apart and offload statements. It just you're building an Exadata." Some of the Oracle brain in me was just going about it. It is
Yeah.
the way to go. It is something that will secure it. I mean, they are putting all of those features in there, and I think that's the most important thing that people need to remember with Fabric is that the focus on data protection in the age of AI, as you're pulling all these AI services in, will be essential to going forward and not being the product and being but coming back to being the customer.
Yeah, to wrap up since half an hour flew by very quickly. I agree, going back to the whole what are they doing with our data kind of thing. I I don't necessarily trust Microsoft to have the best judgment about prioritizing fixing the paper cuts, or like you said,
Yeah,
they need to start justifying the 1,000 copilots they made. Didn't need to put in Paint, didn't need to put in Notepad. But
I'm right there with you on that one.
I trust them 100% with my data
Yeah,
because they're in so many regulated industries that they're not gonna mess around, right? Sam Altman, he's probably taking my private logs and training his AI chatbot to chat with and whatever. But Satya understands that they are in HIPAA industries, GovCloud industries, all the SOX, everything. And so
yes.
that's going to be a distinguishing feature where like Microsoft is doing a bunch of stuff I don't like. But if I had to pick a place to put my data, in an AI service to use on my data, I trust Microsoft 100%.
Yeah.
Or
What is built into the cloud always astounded me where people go, "Well, I have my own data center. I trust my own data center." And I'm like, "You can't build into your own data center what is built into the Azure cloud." Plain and simple. The amount of layers and everything. And yes, that complexity also comes with vulnerabilities, but it is astounding what is built in there. And I would trust that any day over somebody's, somebody's data center. There's no question about it. So yeah, you're right there. Absolutely.
so let's wrap up. Um either AI or Redgate, what is favorite feature or tool that you have? I know Redgate's been doing a bunch of stuff I keep hearing about from Lewis, but I haven't looked into any of it. So anything you want to talk about?
We're busy. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of AI features going in. The ones that I usually spend most of my time with is DevOps with Flyway,
Yeah.
and, what we're doing right now is doing assessments on your actual scripts to make recommendations, so before deployments go out, you will actually know what risks are in there, that you will get summary reports that let you know that. I am really enjoying as I'm working with those. The other thing is actually writing the scripts for you, building all those out so that you have a full summary of what's going to be deployed beforehand too. All of that is built into it. I think that's a real smart way to use AI in a simple way from a product that, it's not in the way. It's not causing trouble. It also is using models for the right thing. A lot of times people go all in and go, I need to deploy all of Copilot or I need to do all of this in OpenAI instead of using smaller language models. And I'm doing a lot of that with open source and building out what might not be in a product yet and using it as more of a self service product and pulling in a small piece with a small language model and doing it with open source and doing it isolated so you have that data protection. Somebody does something stupid suddenly, remove the small language model, delete it. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you talked about flywheel and DevOps, and we talked about it earlier, but like those skills are going to be incredibly important. Like
Yes.
I I've made some really cool stuff the past 3 weeks. I could not do it if I wasn't using Git, automated unit tests, automated integration tests, pre-commit and pre-push Git hooks to make sure that before I commit, before I push, there's a test for some of these things. doing runs with GitHub Actions, like spin up a Docker thing, all this stuff that I couldn't care less about before. Like 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I read the Phoenix project. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Gene Kim. Yeah.
Couldn't care less beyond that, right? Like I had really hoped I'd make it through my career without having to learn about Docker or Kubernetes, and I failed. So Anthony Nocentino is probably saying I told you so somewhere, but
I am sure he
yeah,
is, yeah.
yeah. But this stuff's important. So no, very cool. Um, Last question, where can people find you? Anything you want to pitch or promote or anything like that? Or you just vibing on the river?
I'm easy to find. I'll be at SQL conference. I will be at SQL NL. I'm going to be at the Redgate Summit events, all the different ones, tour around the city. Is that right? Tour around the city? I think that's what we're calling them right now. The Redgate events as well. I
Yeah.
will be the keynote speaker at the Global PowerShell DevOps conference as well, coming up in
You're a
April.
busy lady. Nice.
Yeah. And there will be a number of blog posts coming out about the new AI features that I'm writing right now. Going through the last final pieces, making sure I'm happy with them. And of course, DBA Kevlar, I'm always writing out there too.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. We'll have to have you on in 2027.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.